The piercing cry cut through the airplane cabin like a siren, causing heads to turn and passengers to shift uncomfortably in their seats. Emma Williams clutched her 6-month-old daughter Lily closer to her chest, whispering desperate apologies to anyone within earshot. "Please, sweetheart, please," she whispered, bouncing Lily gently while tears of exhaustion threatened to spill from her own eyes. The baby's wails seemed to echo louder in the confined space of economy class, and Emma could feel the weight of judgmental stares boring into her back. At 24, Emma looked older than her years. Dark circles shadowed her green eyes, and her once vibrant smile had been worn thin by months of struggling to make ends meet as a single mother. Her ex-boyfriend had disappeared the moment she told him about the pregnancy, leaving her to navigate parenthood alone in a cramped studio apartment above the coffee shop where she worked. Every day was a battle between paying for diapers or groceries, between keeping the lights on or buying Lily's formula. This flight from Atlanta to New York had cost her every penny of her savings, but she had no choice. Her cousin Sarah was getting married in 2 days, and despite their strained relationship, Emma couldn't miss it. The flight attendant, a stern-looking woman in her 50s, approached with barely concealed irritation. "Ma'am, you need to keep your baby quiet. Other passengers are trying to rest." "I'm trying," Emma whispered, her voice cracking. She's usually such a good baby, but she hasn't slept properly in days. The change in routine, the noise. She trailed off, knowing her explanations sounded like excuses. Lily's cries intensified, and Emma noticed several passengers pulling out their phones, likely to record her embarrassment. Her face burned with shame as she realized she was becoming one of those stories people would share online. The inconsiderate mother who ruined everyone's flight. "Maybe you should have thought about that before booking a flight," muttered an elderly man across the aisle, loud enough for her to hear. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She had considered driving, but her old Toyota had broken down 3 weeks ago, and she couldn't afford the repairs. This flight was her only option, booked with money she should have used for next month's rent. Just as she was about to retreat to the airplane bathroom to try calming Lily in private, a gentle voice spoke beside her. "Excuse me, would you mind if I tried something?" Emma looked up to see a man in an expensive-looking navy suit, probably in his early 30s, with kind blue eyes and perfectly styled dark hair. Everything about him screamed wealth and success, from his Italian leather shoes to the platinum watch on his wrist. He was the type of man who belonged in first class, not squeezed into economy seating. Emma stammered, confused by his unexpected offer. "I have experience with babies," he said with a warm smile. "My sister has 3 kids, and I've learned a few tricks over the years. Sometimes a different voice or touch can help. Would you trust me to try?" Emma hesitated. She had learned to be wary of strangers, especially men who showed sudden interest in her and Lily. But something about his demeanor felt genuine, and she was desperate enough to try anything. "Okay," she whispered, carefully transferring Lily into his arms. The moment the baby settled against his shoulder, something magical happened. Within seconds, Lily's cries softened to quiet whimpers, and then to complete silence. The man's large hand moved in gentle circles on her tiny back, and he hummed a soft melody that seemed to work like a lullaby. "How did you—" Emma breathed, amazed by the sudden peace. "Like I said, lots of practice," he replied quietly, continuing his soothing motions. "Sometimes babies just need a change of scenery, or in this case, a change of arms around them." The cabin had settled into grateful quiet. Passengers who had been glaring moments before now watched with curiosity and approval. The flight attendant even smiled as she passed by, nodding appreciatively at the resolved situation. "What's her name?" the man asked, still holding Lily with practiced ease. "Lily," Emma replied, studying his face. There was something familiar about him, though she couldn't place where she might have seen him before. "And I'm Emma. I can't thank you enough for this. I was about to have a complete breakdown." "Nice to meet you both." "I'm Michael," he said, then added with a chuckle, "And don't mention it. We've all been there. Maybe not with a baby, but we've all had those moments where everything feels overwhelming. As Lily drifted towards sleep against Michael's shoulder, Emma found herself relaxing for the first time in days. She watched how naturally he held her daughter, how his expensive suit jacket was now wrinkled and slightly damp from baby drool, yet he didn't seem to care at all. "You're not sitting in economy, are you?" she asked suddenly, realizing he was far too well dressed for their section of the plane. Michael smiled mysteriously. "Let's just say I like to mix things up sometimes. First class can be predictable." There was something in his tone that made Emma wonder if there was more to his story, but she was too grateful and exhausted to press further. "Where are you headed?" Michael asked, gently adjusting Lily's position. "New York. My cousin's wedding," Emma replied, "though I'm starting to wonder if this was a mistake. Sarah and I haven't spoken in 2 years. We had a huge fight when I got pregnant because she thought I was throwing my life away. That's tough. Family relationships can be complicated. She only invited me because her mother, my aunt, guilt-tripped her into it. I don't even know why I'm going, except that she's the only family I have left since my mom died." Michael listened intently, never interrupting or offering empty platitudes. His genuine attention was something Emma hadn't experienced in months. "What about you?" she asked. "Business trip?" "Something like that," Michael replied vaguely. "I work in investments, helping people build better futures for themselves and their families." Emma nodded, though she sensed he was being deliberately vague about his work. The gentle hum of the airplane engines, combined with the first peaceful moment she'd had in weeks, began to make Emma's eyelids heavy. "I should take her back," she said half-heartedly, though Lily looked more comfortable than she had in days. "She's fine here if you want to rest," Michael offered. "I don't mind holding her. You look like you could use some sleep." Emma wanted to protest, to maintain her independence and not accept help from a stranger, but her body was betraying her. The combination of exhaustion, relief, and the first kindness she'd experienced in months was overwhelming her defenses. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice already thick with impending sleep. "Absolutely, rest, I've got her." Despite every instinct telling her to stay alert, Emma felt her head growing heavy, the warmth radiating from Michael, the steady rhythm of his breathing, and Lily's peaceful silence created a cocoon of safety she hadn't felt in months. Almost without realizing it, she found herself leaning against his shoulder, her consciousness fading as the airplane carried them through the night sky. Emma stirred awake to the gentle announcement that they would be landing in New York in 30 minutes. For a moment she was disoriented, wondering why she felt so warm and comfortable. Then the reality of her situation crashed back. She was still leaning against Michael's shoulder, and Lily was sleeping peacefully in his arms, completely content. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she whispered urgently, sitting up quickly and immediately missing the warmth. "I can't believe I fell asleep on you. You must think I'm completely inappropriate." Michael smiled, seemingly unfazed by her embarrassment. "You were exhausted. Both of you needed the rest. Lily only woke up once and I managed to keep her calm." He carefully transferred the sleeping baby back to Emma's arms. She's an angel when she's peaceful like this. Emma looked down at her daughter's serene face, marveling at how different Lily looked when she wasn't crying from stress and overstimulation. She really is. It's just been so hard lately. Everything feels like it's falling apart, and I'm barely keeping my head above water. The words tumbled out before she could stop them, and Emma immediately regretted the overshare. This stranger didn't need to hear about her problems, no matter how kind he had been. "Want to talk about it?" Michael asked gently, his blue eyes showing genuine concern. "Sometimes it helps to tell someone who's not involved in your situation." Emma hesitated. She had learned to keep her struggles private, partly from pride and partly from the painful experience of people who offered help only to disappear when things got difficult. But something about Michael's demeanor made her feel safe. "I'm a single mom," she began quietly, glancing around to make sure other passengers weren't listening. "Lily's father left when I told him I was pregnant. I work at a coffee shop in Atlanta, pulling double shifts just to afford our tiny apartment. My car broke down, I'm behind on rent, and I used my last savings for this plane ticket because my cousin is getting married." She paused, fighting back tears. "The worst part is, Sarah and I haven't spoken in 2 years. We had a huge fight when I got pregnant because she thought I was throwing my life away. She only invited me because her mother guilt-tripped her into it. I don't even know why I'm going, except that she's the only family I have left since my mom died." Michael listened intently, never interrupting or offering empty platitudes. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment, processing her words. "That takes incredible courage," he said finally. "Raising a child alone, working multiple shifts, and still making the effort to repair a relationship with your cousin. You're stronger than you realize." Emma looked at him skeptically. "You don't know me. For all you know, I could have made terrible choices that led to this situation." "Maybe," Michael acknowledged. "But I've been watching you since we took off. The way you apologize to every passenger, how gently you handle Lily even when you're stressed, the fact that you're going to a wedding where you might not be welcome just because it's family. Those aren't the actions of someone who makes terrible choices. Those are the actions of someone who cares deeply about doing the right thing." His words hit Emma harder than she expected. When was the last time someone had said something genuinely kind about her character? Her ex-boyfriend had constantly criticized her decisions. Her boss at the coffee shop treated her like she was disposable, and even her own cousin had made her feel like a failure. "What about you?" she asked, deflecting the attention away from herself. "You never told me what you do for work, and you still haven't explained why someone who can obviously afford first class is sitting back here in economy with the rest of us." Michael's expression grew thoughtful, and Emma sensed there was something he wasn't telling her. "I work in business," he said vaguely. "And sometimes I prefer economy, because you meet more interesting people back here. First class can be full of people who've forgotten what real life looks like." "That's a very diplomatic non-answer," Emma observed, studying his face. "Are you some kind of mystery man? Should I be worried that I fell asleep on a stranger's shoulder?" Before Emma could press further, the plane began its descent, and the captain's voice filled the cabin with landing instructions. The spell of their intimate conversation was broken as passengers around them began gathering their belongings and preparing for arrival. "This is probably where we say goodbye," Emma said, feeling unexpectedly sad about parting ways with this kind stranger who had shown her more compassion in a few hours than she'd experienced in months. "Actually," Michael said, reaching into his jacket pocket, "I was hoping I could give you something." He pulled out an elegant business card, cream-colored with simple black lettering. Emma took the card and read it, her eyes widening in shock. The card was simple but expensive, with raised lettering that read, "Michael Harrison, CEO, Harrison Foundation." Below that was a phone number and an address in downtown Manhattan. "You're Michael Harrison," she whispered, staring at the card. Even she, working in a small coffee shop and struggling to make ends meet, had heard of the Harrison Foundation. They were famous for their charitable work, appearing in news stories about education initiatives, housing programs for single mothers, and job training for people in difficult circumstances. "Guilty as charged," Michael said with a sheepish smile. Emma's mind raced as pieces clicked into place. This explained his expensive clothes, his ease with helping people, and his mysterious comments about being in a position to help others. But it also made his kindness toward her take on a completely different meaning. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, still processing the revelation. "Because you needed help from Michael the person, not Michael the CEO," he replied. "And because I've learned that when people know who I am, they either want something from me, or they become so intimidated they can't act naturally anymore. I liked talking to you as just me." The plane touched down with a gentle thud, and passengers immediately began standing and reaching for overhead compartments, despite the flight attendant's requests to remain seated. Emma clutched the business card, unsure whether this revelation made everything better or more complicated. A terrible realization began dawning on her. This morning she had shared her most intimate struggles with a stranger on a plane. Her financial problems, her housing insecurity, her status as a single mother barely making ends meet. Now she was learning that this same stranger ran programs specifically designed to help people in her exact situation. "That housing program you mentioned on your phone call earlier," she said slowly, remembering overhearing part of a conversation. "How long has the Harrison Foundation been running it?" "About 3 years now," Michael replied, seemingly pleased by her interest. "We've helped over 800 families transition into stable housing. It's one of our most successful initiatives." Emma felt a cold anger building in her chest. How convenient that you happen to be sitting in economy class right next to a single mother who fits your program's demographic perfectly. How convenient that you were so interested in hearing all about my financial struggles and housing problems. "Emma, what are you suggesting?" Michael asked, but she could see the guilty knowledge in his eyes. "I'm suggesting that this whole thing, your kindness, your help with Lily, this entire conversation, was some kind of setup. Were you already planning to offer me a spot in your housing program? Is this how the Harrison Foundation finds its success stories? By targeting vulnerable women on airplanes?" "It's not like that," Michael said quickly, but Emma was beyond listening to explanations. "Oh my God, I'm so stupid," she continued, her voice rising despite Lily stirring in her arms. "I actually thought someone was being kind to me for no reason. I thought I had met someone who cared about me as a person, not as a charity case." Other passengers were beginning to stare, but Emma was too hurt and angry to care. Everything made sense now. Why Michael had been so interested in her story. Why he had been so careful not to reveal his identity. Why he had given her his business card with such mysterious promises. "You want to know the worst part?" she said, tears of humiliation burning her eyes. "For a few hours I actually felt like I was worth something. Like maybe I wasn't just some pathetic single mom who couldn't get her life together. But this whole time, you were just evaluating me like some kind of case study." "That's not true," Michael said, stepping closer. "Yes, I was traveling to New York for business, and yes, I do sometimes fly economy to stay connected with the people we serve. But helping you wasn't calculated, Emma. It was human decency, and getting to know you, that was genuine." "I don't believe you," Emma replied, though something in his voice made her want to. "People like you don't just randomly help people like me unless there's something in it for them. What were you planning to do? Follow me to my cousin's wedding and document how your charity changed my life?" Michael ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely distressed. "I can see how this looks, but you're wrong about my motivations. Yes, I'm passionate about helping single mothers because I've seen what they go through. My own mother raised me alone after my father left when I was 8. She worked 3 jobs just to keep us housed and fed." This revelation stopped Emma's angry tirade cold. She studied Michael's face, seeing something raw and vulnerable that hadn't been there before. "Every woman we help through our programs reminds me of her," Michael continued quietly. "Of the nights she cried herself to sleep thinking she was failing me. Of the times she went hungry so I could eat. Of the way she held her head high even when the world treated her like she was somehow less worthy because she was raising a child alone." Emma felt her anger wavering, but the hurt was still too fresh. "Even if that's true, it doesn't change the fact that you weren't honest with me. You let me pour my heart out to you while knowing you could fix all my problems with a phone call." "And if I had told you who I was from the beginning," Michael challenged, "would you have talked to me the same way? Would you have let me hold Lily? Or would you have assumed I had ulterior motives?" Emma opened her mouth to argue, then realized he was right. If she had known he was a billionaire CEO with charitable programs, she would have been either suspicious of his intentions or too intimidated to be herself. But before she could respond, Lily began crying again, the stress and raised voices disturbing her peaceful sleep. The sound cut through Emma's emotional turmoil, reminding her that she had more immediate concerns than sorting out her complicated feelings about Michael Harrison. "I have to go," she said, adjusting Lily in her arms. "My cousin is expecting me, and I've already made enough of a scene in public for one day." "Emma, please," Michael called as she started walking away. "Let me explain everything properly. Let me—" But Emma kept walking, her heart breaking with every step, wondering if she had just walked away from the answer to all her prayers, or if she had narrowly escaped becoming someone's charity project. The hotel room was every bit as depressing as Emma had expected. The carpet bore mysterious stains, the heater rattled ominously, and the thin walls meant she could hear every conversation in adjacent rooms. But none of that mattered as much as the ache in her chest from walking away from Michael at the airport 2 days ago. Emma sat on the lumpy bed, trying to fix a run in her only nice dress, a simple black piece she had worn to job interviews and her mother's funeral. Lily lay on the bed beside her, finally content after a difficult night in the unfamiliar environment. Tomorrow was Sarah's wedding, and Emma still hadn't decided if she actually had the courage to show up. Her phone buzzed with a text from her cousin. "Rehearsal dinner is at 7. You're still coming to the wedding tomorrow, right?" The message was polite but distant, carrying none of the warmth Emma remembered from their childhood. She typed and deleted several responses before settling on, "Yes, I'll be there." What she didn't tell Sarah was that she had spent the last 2 days replaying every moment of her conversation with Michael, wondering if she had been completely wrong about his intentions. The hurt was still there, but so was a growing regret that she might have thrown away something genuine because of her own defensive walls. A knock at the door interrupted her brooding. Emma peered through the peephole, expecting to see the motel manager or perhaps a pizza delivery for the wrong room. Instead, she saw Sarah standing in the hallway, looking elegant in a cream-colored coat that probably cost more than Emma's monthly rent. "Sarah," Emma opened the door, shocked. "What are you doing here?" Her cousin stepped inside, surveying the shabby room with barely concealed dismay. "I came to talk to you before tomorrow. We need to clear the air." Emma bristled automatically. "If you're here to tell me I don't belong at your wedding, just save us both the time." "Actually," Sarah said, sitting carefully on the room's single chair, "I'm here to apologize, and to tell you something that might change how you feel about a lot of things." This wasn't the conversation Emma had been expecting. Sarah had always been the successful cousin, the one who went to college, got the good job, married the right man. She had never apologized for anything, especially not to Emma. "2 years ago, when we had that fight about your pregnancy," Sarah began, "I said terrible things. I called you irresponsible, said you were throwing your life away, accused you of being selfish for having a baby you couldn't afford." "I remember," Emma said quietly, the old wound still tender. "What you don't know is that I was trying to get pregnant too," Sarah continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "David and I had been trying for months. When I found out you were having Lily, I was so angry because it felt like you got something I wanted so desperately and you didn't even plan for it." Emma stared at her cousin, processing this revelation. "Sarah, I had no idea." "I lost the baby 2 weeks after our fight," Sarah interrupted, tears flowing freely now. "And instead of calling you, instead of apologizing and asking for support, I buried myself in work and wedding planning and pretended everything was fine. I've spent 2 years being angry at you for having what I couldn't keep." The cousins sat in silence for a moment, both crying for different reasons. Emma reached for Sarah's hand, and for the first time in years, her cousin didn't pull away. "I'm so sorry," Emma whispered. "I wish I had known. I wish I could have been there for you." "That's not even the most important thing I came to tell you," Sarah said, wiping her eyes. "Yesterday, a man called my office. He said he was trying to reach you about something urgent, but you weren't answering your phone." Emma's heart stopped. "Michael?" "Michael Harrison, yes. He explained that you two had met on a flight and that there had been some kind of misunderstanding. He asked if I knew how to reach you, and when I told him I was your cousin, he asked if we could meet." "You met with him?" Emma asked, alarmed. "I did. And Emma, you need to know what he told me." Sarah leaned forward earnestly. "He said he's been looking for you for 2 days, not because of any housing program or charity initiative, but because he's in love with you." The words hit Emma like a physical blow. "That's impossible. We knew each other for a few hours." "That's what I told him," Sarah replied. "But then he spent 20 minutes telling me about every detail of your conversation, about how Lily fell asleep in his arms, about how brave and strong you are, about how you made him remember why he started his charitable work in the first place. He wasn't talking like a CEO discussing a program participant, Emma. He was talking like a man who had found something precious and lost it. Emma's mind raced. But the housing program, he explained that too. He was traveling to New York for business, yes, and he does sometimes fly economy to stay connected with the people his programs serve. But helping you wasn't part of some elaborate recruitment scheme. He said he gave you his card because he wanted to see you again, not because he wanted to evaluate you for charity. Then why didn't he just tell me that? Then you'll spend the rest of your life wondering, what if? Sarah replied. And Emma, you're the bravest person I know. You've survived everything life has thrown at you, and you've raised a beautiful daughter while doing it. If you can do all that, you can certainly take a chance on love. Sarah smiled sadly. Because he was afraid you'd think he was trying to buy your affection with money and programs. He said he's dealt with too many people who only saw him as a wallet, and he wanted you to know him as just Michael first. Emma felt her carefully constructed anger crumbling. Even if that's all true, we come from completely different worlds. He's a billionaire CEO, and I'm a single mom who can barely afford this horrible hotel room. That's the other thing, Sarah said, pulling out her phone. He asked me to show you this. She opened a news article from 3 years ago with the headline, Harrison Foundation CEO establishes single mother housing initiative in memory of late mother. Below was a photo of Michael at a ribbon-cutting ceremony, standing next to a modest apartment building. Read the quote, Sarah instructed. Emma read aloud. My mother, Elena Santos Harrison, raised me alone after my father abandoned us when I was 8. She worked 3 jobs to keep us housed and fed, often going hungry herself so I could eat. This program exists because no child should wonder if they'll have a home tomorrow, and no mother should have to choose between feeding her child and paying rent. Santos was his mother's maiden name, Sarah explained. She was a single mother from Atlanta who cleaned offices at night and worked in a factory during the day. Michael grew up in poverty, Emma. He understands your world because he lived it. Emma sank onto the bed, overwhelmed by this new information. Everything she thought she knew about Michael was shifting, revealing a picture of someone who truly understood struggle and chose to help others because of it, not despite it. There's more, Sarah said gently. He's here in New York. He's been staying at the hotel where my reception is tomorrow night. Not because he's trying to intrude, but because he's hoping you'll give him a chance to explain everything properly. He's at your wedding venue. I invited him, Sarah admitted. After hearing his story, after seeing how desperate he was to find you and make things right, I thought maybe this was fate. Maybe you two were supposed to meet, and maybe I was supposed to help fix what got broken. Emma looked down at Lily, who was watching her with bright, curious eyes. Her daughter deserved a father figure who would love and protect her, and Emma deserved someone who saw her as more than just a struggling single mother. What if I'm not brave enough? Emma whispered. What if I'm too scared of getting hurt? Then you'll spend the rest of your life wondering, what if? Sarah replied. And Emma, you're the bravest person I know. You've survived everything life has thrown at you, and you've raised a beautiful daughter while doing it. If you can do all that, you can certainly take a chance on love. The next evening, Emma stood outside the elegant hotel ballroom where Sarah's reception was in full swing. She had borrowed a dress from her cousin, a beautiful emerald green gown that made her feel like someone who belonged in such a fancy place. Lily was upstairs with the hotel babysitter, sleeping peacefully for once. Through the glass doors, Emma could see the celebration inside. Sarah looked radiant in her wedding dress, dancing with her new husband, while guests mingled around elegant tables decorated with white roses and gold accents. And there, at a table near the back, sat Michael in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, watching the door as if he had been waiting for her all evening. Their eyes met through the glass, and Emma saw something in his expression that took her breath away. It wasn't pity or charity or even simple attraction. It was love. Real, honest, overwhelming love that made her feel seen and valued for exactly who she was. Michael rose from his chair and walked toward the door, never breaking eye contact. When he reached her, he stopped just close enough that she could see the hope and fear warring in his blue eyes. "I was afraid you wouldn't come," he said softly. "I was afraid too," Emma admitted. "But someone recently told me that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing even when you're terrified." "I should have been honest with you from the beginning," Michael said. "Not about who I am professionally, but about how I felt. The moment Lily fell asleep in my arms, and you trusted me enough to rest your head on my shoulder, I knew my life had changed forever." "Michael," Emma began, but he held up a gentle hand. "Let me finish, please. I don't want to help you because you're a charity case. I want to build a life with you because you're the strongest, most genuine person I've ever met. I want to be Lily's father, not because she needs one, but because I already love her as if she were my own. And I want to wake up every morning knowing that I get to spend another day with the woman who reminded me what really matters in life." Emma felt tears streaming down her cheeks, but for the first time in months, they were tears of joy instead of despair. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I started falling for you the moment you took Lily in your arms and made her feel safe. But I was so scared of being hurt again, of being disappointed again, that I almost threw it all away." Michael stepped closer, gently cupping her face in his hands. "You never have to be scared of that with me. I want to spend the rest of my life proving that you and Lily are the most important things in my world." As he leaned down to kiss her, Emma realized that sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin with the simplest acts of kindness. A crying baby, a stranger's helping hand, and the courage to trust again had led her to something she had never dared to dream of. A love that would change not just her circumstances, but her entire world. When they finally broke apart, Michael smiled and said, "So, would you like to dance? I believe this is where our real story begins." Emma took his hand, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Not as a charity case and her benefactor, but as two people who had found in each other the missing pieces of their hearts. And as they walked into the ballroom together, Lily slept peacefully upstairs, dreaming perhaps of the loving family that awaited her when she woke. The song that played as they danced was soft and sweet, but Emma barely heard the music. All she could focus on was the feeling of being exactly where she belonged, in the arms of a man who had seen her at her most vulnerable and chosen to love her anyway. "Thank you," she whispered against his chest. "For what?" "For showing me that sometimes the most impossible dreams really do come true." Michael spun her gently, and Emma laughed, really laughed, for the first time in longer than she could remember. Around them, other couples danced, but Emma felt like she and Michael were the only two people in the world. As the evening continued, Sarah approached them during a quiet moment, her eyes shining with happiness. "I'm so glad you both came," she said, hugging Emma tightly. "You look beautiful, cousin, and happy, really, truly happy." As they reached Emma's hotel room door, both of them hesitated, neither wanting the perfect evening to end. "I am," Emma replied, surprised by how true those words felt. "Thank you for believing in us when I couldn't believe in myself." Later, as the reception wound down, Michael and Emma found themselves on the hotel's rooftop terrace, looking out over the New York City skyline. The lights twinkled like stars, and Emma thought she had never seen anything more beautiful. "What happens now?" she asked, leaning against the railing. "Now," Michael said, wrapping his arms around her from behind, "we take it one day at a time. We get to know each other properly. No secrets, no misunderstandings, just us." "And Lily?" "Lily gets a father who will love her unconditionally and a life filled with every opportunity I can provide. But more importantly, she gets to grow up seeing her mother truly happy." Emma turned in his arms, studying his face in the moonlight. "Are you sure about this? About us? Your world is so different from mine." "Emma," Michael said seriously, "my world has been empty without you in it. Money and success mean nothing if you don't have someone to share them with. You and Lily, you're my family now. You're my home. As if on cue, Emma's phone buzzed with a text from the babysitter. Lily just woke up asking for Mama and nice man. I think she misses you both. They laughed, and Emma realized that Lily had already accepted Michael as part of their little family. Children were wise that way. They knew when someone truly cared for them. Should we go check on her? Michael asked. In a minute, Emma said, standing on her tiptoes to kiss him again. I just want to remember this moment, the moment when everything changed. Everything already changed, Michael said softly. The moment you fell asleep on my shoulder, I knew I was going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never had to worry about anything again. And the moment you held my daughter like she was precious, Emma replied, I knew I was going to spend the rest of my life loving you. They stood there for a few more minutes, holding each other under the stars, both understanding that they had found something rare and beautiful. A love that had grown from kindness, survived misunderstanding, and emerged stronger than either of them had thought possible. When they finally went upstairs to collect Lily, they found her sitting up in her portable crib, babbling happily to herself. The moment she saw them, her face lit up with pure joy. Mama! She cried, reaching for Emma. But when she noticed Michael, she reached for him too, saying what sounded remarkably like, nice man. Michael's eyes filled with tears as he picked up Lily, and Emma knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it as a family. A family that had been born from an airplane encounter, nurtured by kindness, and sealed with a love that would last forever. As they walked back to their hotel rooms, now adjacent rather than separate, Emma reflected on how much her life had changed in just a few days. She had boarded that plane feeling hopeless and alone. She was ending the night with a partner who loved her and a future full of possibilities. Sweet dreams, my love, Michael whispered as he gently placed Lily in her crib. The baby settled immediately, as if she knew she was finally safe and surrounded by people who would always protect her. Emma watched from the doorway, her heart full in a way she had never experienced before. This moment, Michael tucking her daughter into bed like he had been doing it her whole life, felt more intimate than any grand romantic gesture ever could. She trusts you completely, Emma said softly as they stepped into the hallway. Children have good instincts, Michael replied, taking her hand. They know when someone truly cares about them. Michael, Emma said, I need you to know something. I've never been in a relationship where I felt truly safe, where I felt like I could be myself without judgment or criticism. Thank you for giving me that. Emma, you never have to thank me for treating you the way you deserve to be treated. That's just love. She smiled, tears threatening again. I keep waiting to wake up and discover this has all been a dream. Then, let me prove it's real, Michael said, gently kissing her forehead. Tomorrow, I want to take you and Lily to breakfast. Somewhere quiet where we can talk about our future. Really talk about what we both want. What about your business? Don't you have meetings and important CEO things to do? Michael laughed. Emma, I just found the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. There is nothing more important than that. My assistant can handle whatever comes up for one more day. After one last lingering kiss goodnight, Emma finally entered her hotel room, closing the door behind her. She leaned against it, still hardly believing that her life had transformed so completely in such a short time. Her phone buzzed with a text from Michael. Thank you for giving me a second chance. You and Lily are the best things that have ever happened to me. Sleep well, beautiful. Emma typed back, thank you for showing me what real love looks like. See you in the morning. As she changed into her pajamas and prepared for bed, Emma caught sight of herself in the bathroom mirror. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she looked genuinely happy. The stress lines around her eyes had softened, and there was a glow about her that hadn't been there in months. She thought about calling her aunt to thank her for pushing Sarah to invite her to the wedding, but it was too late now. Instead, she made a mental note to send flowers tomorrow with a card that simply said, "Thank you for believing in family, even when we disappoint each other." Just before falling asleep, Emma checked on Lily one more time. Her daughter was sleeping peacefully, one tiny fist curled near her face, completely content. Emma kissed her fingertips and gently touched them to Lily's forehead. "Everything's going to be different now, sweetheart," she whispered. "We're going to have the kind of life I always dreamed of giving you. You're going to have a daddy who loves you, and Mama's going to be happy. Really, truly happy." As Emma finally drifted off to sleep, her last conscious thought was gratitude for the crying baby that had brought them together, for the kind stranger who had become her soulmate, and for the courage to trust in love one more time. In his room next door, Michael was having similar thoughts. He stood at the window, looking out at the city lights, still hardly believing that his life had changed so dramatically. For years, he had focused on building his foundation, helping others find stability and hope. But in the process, he had forgotten to build a life for himself. Emma and Lily had reminded him that success meant nothing without someone to share it with. They had given him something more valuable than all his wealth and accomplishments combined. They had given him a family. His phone rang, and he saw his assistant's name on the screen. For a moment, he considered letting it go to voicemail, but his sense of responsibility won out. "This better be important, Jessica," he answered. "I'm sorry to call so late, Mr. Harrison, but the board meeting for tomorrow morning has been moved up. The investors from London can only meet at 8 a.m. before their flight back." Michael looked toward the wall that separated his room from Emma's and made a decision that surprised even himself. "Cancel it," he said. "Sir, this is the quarterly review meeting. You've been preparing for it for weeks." "I said cancel it. Reschedule for next week. And Jessica?" "Yes, sir?" The airplane encounter that had started with tears and embarrassment had become the beginning of the greatest love story Emma could have ever imagined. And the best part was, she could feel in her heart that this was only the beginning of their beautiful, impossible, perfectly real fairy tale. "For the next 3 days, unless someone is literally dying, I'm unavailable. I have something much more important to attend to." After hanging up, Michael realized he had just made the first decision in his adult life, where he had prioritized his personal happiness over business obligations. It felt liberating. The next morning arrived with golden sunlight streaming through the hotel windows. Emma woke naturally for the first time in months, without the jarring alarm clock that usually pulled her from exhausted sleep. Lily was still sleeping peacefully, and Emma took a moment to simply lie in bed and appreciate the quiet contentment that filled her heart. A soft knock at the door interrupted her peaceful morning. She opened it to find Michael standing in the hallway with a tray containing coffee, fresh orange juice, and what looked like gourmet pastries. "I thought you might be hungry," he said with a smile that made her heart skip. "And I couldn't wait until breakfast to see you again." Emma laughed, suddenly self-conscious about her pajamas and messy hair. "You know, most people would think it's crazy to be this happy after knowing someone for basically 3 days. Most people haven't found their soulmate on an airplane," Michael replied, setting the tray on the small table by the window. "Besides, I have it on good authority that when you know, you know." "Whose authority?" "My mother's. She used to tell me that real love doesn't follow timelines or social expectations. She said when you find the person who makes your heart feel at home, you don't waste time questioning it. You just say thank you and hold on tight." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. She sounds like she was a wise woman. She was. I think she would have loved you and Lily. She would have said you have the same strength she did. The strength to love fiercely and fight for what matters. As if summoned by their conversation, Lily began stirring in her crib, making the soft sounds that indicated she was waking up happy rather than distressed. "Someone's ready to start the day," Emma said, going to lift her daughter. "Morning, beautiful girl," Michael said to Lily, who immediately reached for him with a delighted babble. As Emma watched Michael greet her daughter with genuine affection, she knew with absolute certainty that this was right. This was the family she had always dreamed of but never dared to hope for. "So," she said, settling beside Michael with Lily on her lap, "what's the plan for today?" "First, breakfast somewhere Lily can make all the noise she wants without anyone judging us. Then, I thought we could walk through Central Park. And then, Michael paused, looking suddenly nervous. Then what? Then I'd like to take you and Lily to see something. Something that might help you understand what our future could look like together. Emma studied his face, seeing excitement mixed with vulnerability. Michael Harrison, are you planning to surprise me again? Maybe, he said with a grin. But this time I promise it's a good surprise. One that I hope will show you just how serious I am about building a life with you. As they shared breakfast while Lily played contentedly with a set of hotel spoons that fascinated her far more than any expensive toy ever could, Emma realized that this was what happiness felt like. Not the desperate, fleeting moments of relief she had grown accustomed to, but deep, steady contentment mixed with excitement for the future. I love you, she said suddenly, the words spilling out before she could second-guess them. Michael's face lit up with joy. I love you too, both of you, more than I ever thought possible. And as Lily clapped her hands together as if applauding their declaration, Emma knew that their story was just beginning. Whatever surprises Michael had planned, whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. As a family built on love, trust, and the kind of deep connection that could survive anything life threw at them.